Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Logan. How are you today, Logan?
Oh, Jordan, I'm doing well. This is a really slow time of year for me when the Cubs aren't good. So I was just thinking about this today. Now that MLS Cup is taking place in October, November, and runs all the way through into December, I feel like it's good. We had World Cup last year, right? Was that last year? Two
No,
years ago.
2022
2 years ago.
already.
That's
Already been
wild.
2 years
Yeah,
since we were
that
doing that.
seems
Yeah.
weird. Um, but I don't know. I like that MLS Cup is around this time because it's kind of like a nice little. You've got baseball postseason, which I don't have any skin in the game, which is still fun to watch. Baseball
I'm
postseason is
used
a
to
lot of fun.
that. But yeah, the
Yeah,
last 2 years has been different. Yeah.
yeah. But then I've got basketball starting up and football kind of in the midst of. It's kind of in the
Collapsing.
grind
Yeah.
part, right? So, yeah. Well, the Dolphins are awful, so
They make
this
you
is
cry. Yep.
yeah, I was just thinking about that today. I was like, I'm so happy. I was getting really excited about today's episode. I was like looking through, I was reading different things on my lunch break and watching different things on the MLS Cup and MLS season.
They didn't have like any clinch scenarios. And I started trying to
Right.
do the math myself for stuff. And I was failing pretty hard, I think. So I was like, oh, I'm going to be prepared and we're going to be like able to say what happens with the clinch scenarios. But no, I am not. I tried. I tried, and I have some stuff that I think is right, but we'll see. Um, yeah, but we have some teams that clinched, Logan, including your Orlando City. They're in the playoffs. Um, I think there's three teams that clinched. I think Cincy was already clinched, but Orlando is clinched, NYCFC is clinched, and the Red Bulls have clinched. The Red Bulls clinched even though they lost 5-1 against their rivals NYCFC. I saw them share the post like, "Hey, it's our 15th straight year in the postseason," and I saw people kind of being like, "So you just got like wrecked? Like, why are you?" But this is like the longest active streak I think in sports right now for when I was watching, I think it was MLS wrap up. They had um like all the different sports listed, and I think the longest active one in the NFL is the Chiefs with 9. I think baseball is the Astros with 10 or something. So yeah, the Red Bulls are or the Dodgers had the longest streak with 12, I think it is. Yeah, so Red Bulls still have the longest streak. Now, here's the thing: they don't even get close to MLS Cup, though. At least like Dodgers had a win, right? People want to discredit the 2020. Somebody had to win that one, whatever, right? We talked about that last week. The Astros, they've had a long streak. They've won. Kansas City has won 3 Super Bowls. So while you can tout we've been in the playoffs 15 straight times, Logan, they don't even sniff MLS Cup. They're usually a first round out type of club.
Yeah. No, this is always fun because I think you look at different postseason teams. I actually was just looking through. I found the scenarios, Jordan. They have like a whole tab for playoff scenarios. I just found.
Where is it?
But
Where is it?
I'll put it in the chat. But like you said, I mean, this is a lot of fun for different cities. I mean, this is a really good time of year. You've got different sports being played. You've got football coming online, which is obviously a very popular sport here in the United States, at least American football. So I'm interested to kind of see like what happens with MLS Cup because MLS Cup I think is the hardest to kind of predict. I still feel like I was talking to our friend Matt that we roomed with. He said, what's the deal with MLS playoffs? And I said, buckle up, it gets weird. So because we're talking about other postseasons, we're talking about NFL is easy to understand. Baseball has gotten more complex, but it's still easier to understand. I think MLS can
And
get
it's
really
still the
confusing.
best.
Yes, I think MLB's postseason. I
I
still
think like
think
NFL's is the best when you just talk about like you like every game matters. It's one win, you're in, one loss, you're done. But I just love MLB playoffs the best And I used to feel that way about MLS playoffs as well, but since they've changed to this, what the one that we did like the first year or the second
Yeah.
year we
Yep.
were doing this show was the best. And then they immediately the next year, like once they joined Apple, they're like, we got to do the best of three thing, and it's like, all right, you ruined it. We were all, and it was like the NFL style of each game matters. One win, you're in. One loss, you're done. But yeah, so here we go. Oh, you know why they just posted this article at 5 o'clock? I was looking at
Oh,
like
yeah.
lunchtime. So no,
Yeah.
that this is good. This is good.
Yeah. But I mean, like you said, I think baseball, because it's a marathon, and because I think the postseason feels marathonish, but it's not long. Like if that doesn't make any sense. But like I don't know. I feel like it is a longer one. It's a month, but I still feel like baseball flies because like there's games in between usually. Like there's games on this day and games on that day and games on this day. Whereas I feel like MLS and NFL can feel like it drags on a little bit because they're weeks apart, or like a whole 2 weeks
And
apart.
because we have the international windows as well.
Right. And then in NFL, Pro Bowl takes up one of the weekends, so you have that split between the championship games and the Super Bowl. And then in the NBA typically waits a longer period of time depending on when the teams are done. A lot of times that ends up being 5 to 6 days because they have to get all the media stuff in. So it's all, I don't know. I always felt like baseball did it the best.
Yeah, I
We were
mean, like
talking about.
baseballs start like the next round starts like as soon as they can.
Mhm.
It's like
Yep.
unless if somebody sweeps, uh, you don't have long off, like no
Right.
long breaks.
There's usually like a day in between, but
Because they don't do
I'm
like the media stuff. They don't do like a
no.
media day like the Super Bowl. They're just like, hey, guess what? World Series
Yeah.
starting. Here you go.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of that is, like, you've got a whole series to do it in, whereas, like, NFL and them are trying to get it a day in, but
Yeah, it's
basketball
one
is
day.
weird.
Yeah.
Like, basketball is, very strange. NBA finals is very odd, but I feel like that's ESPN's fault, so,
Hmm.
um but yeah, I'm excited for MLS because I still think there's something as the league grows, Jordan. I think as we get to 32 teams was what we sound like we're gonna hit on finally. I know we're gonna get 30, but I think 32 is kind of where we stop for a little bit. I feel like they could go through the kind of the NBA, how the NBA does it. I hope they do that where they go 1 through 8, um, and then go back to a one and done. I know that's not like everybody's favorite thing, but it works for NFL, and people continuously come back to that as the most popular sport in the United States. So,
And it gives the home field, like it gives the people that deserve home field the
yeah.
home field advantage. Like when we did two legs, it became very dicey on which one you would want, the first leg or the second leg.
Right.
Right? Like I mean,
Yeah.
it depends on the team, I think. You could see it both ways of like, well, I want to start off good at home so that way we know what we need on the road, but it's also like, no, let's start on the road so we know what we need at home. Like it, it's very balanced. That's why they use it in things like the Champions League and stuff. But we're trying to reward people for their long season of, you know, playing well. So you want to give those higher seeds an advantage. So yeah, just having what we do right after we're done this best of three is just go to one-offs, and we do that. The best of three is going to take a long time because they are spreading them out, and because of then we have an international window right after that. So then we have a whole week after we are, and if somebody sweeps like last year when KC beat St. Louis, and you're like, well, all right, they're sitting around for a bit. I don't know. It was exciting. Like there were good games with the best of three last year. I don't want to like act like there wasn't. And I'm excited. Like I think best of three can be good, but they need to have it much shorter. The MLB is about to kick off a best of three, and they do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then the next series starts on Saturday. Now, obviously, it's soccer; you can't do that. But doing Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, like Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, would be better than what they're currently set up to do.
Yeah. because it puts games on different days. You're gonna have it. Like I think last year, Jordan, you and I were like, "Why is there only one game?" And they put them at
Had some
weird
every day.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
wanted them every day,
right.
so it
They're
made it
like four
confusing.
o'clock games, like 5 o'clock games. Like nobody's watching that. They're coming home from work. So yeah, we'll see how it breaks down, but it's gonna be about the same. And um, the exact schedule's not out, but the dates are out. So there is the date range, and the like you said, the date range is long. It's like the first round of three is like October 26th through like November 10th.
Yeah.
So that's brutal.
It should be
So
1 week for the best of 3, and then you
yeah,
could finish MLS Cup before the beginning of December.
yeah. And that's the other weird part. When I told that to Matt, he was like, "Wait, they take a break before the semi?" Or after the semi. I'm like, "Yeah," or no, it's before the semi conference, I think. So, or the conference finals. Sorry, not the semis. So, yeah, it's strange. I don't like it. I'd prefer the one and done, but I don't think it's going to happen in MLS anytime soon.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some clinch scenarios then. Let's talk this before we get into anything else that happened. This Wednesday. Oh yeah, because we have got games on Wednesday this week. Great. Yes, we have games on Wednesday this week. How many games do we got? We got a full slate. And then we have games on Saturday and Sunday. Okay. So I was just looking. This is the one I was looking at. Charlotte. Charlotte can clinch with a win against Chicago, which is what I was thinking when I was doing my math, because Toronto's not going to be able to catch them. And then I think Philly and Montreal wouldn't be able to catch them. So then Charlotte would be clinched. Charlotte draw versus Chicago, and Toronto lose, and DC lose, and New England lose, and Atlanta lose. You could also do it where all those teams draw as well, because it's lose/draw. Or they can clinch if Toronto lose/draw, and New England lose/draw, and Atlanta lose/draw, and DC United draw. And that's without Charlotte doing anything, really, I guess. But Charlotte is on the verge here. If they don't clinch Wednesday, they'll probably clinch Saturday with the way that they're going. I don't think they're going to drop out of this playoff spot. So there you go. They play against Chicago at 7:30 on Wednesday. Minnesota can clinch a berth on Wednesday if they beat RSL, or if Dallas lose or draw at San Jose. Dallas, very inconsistent team this year, so you could see one of those things happening. Minnesota and RSL, I think, are very interesting, because there's times where I think RSL has like a really off night, and then there's times where Minnesota has a very off night. So I'm just wondering, like, if one of those have a very off night. In Minnesota's case, they'll want it to be RSL so they can clinch. But again, this will be another situation where pretty much they don't clinch on Wednesday. They're probably clinching on Saturday. There's a bigger gap from 8th and 9th spot in the West to falling out of the playoffs than there is in the East. So these clubs in the West have almost got this wrapped up. Logan, to the point where I think decision day will probably just be for seeding purposes over in the West.
Yeah, that'll be weird because I think the last couple of years that we've covered it, it's
I think
always been
every year. I think
one
every year
team.
we've covered it. There's been at least one team
Yeah.
that gets in. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like you said though, that decision day might just be interesting in the fact of the West that they're all so close to each other that it's going to be like a collision of cars, like going up against one another. So I'm interested to see what that falls into. But like you said, yeah, it is wild that we're not going to have a decision day that's going to be marking a team falling out of the playoffs in the West.
Yeah, that's that'll be interesting. Portland can clinch now if they win against Austin, or if they draw against Austin and Dallas lose/draw at San Jose. Austin, I've seen their fans campaigning for a new manager. Wow, let's just think about it, right? Like, Precourt had it pretty made in Columbus. The fans were good in Columbus. He just couldn't get a new stadium that he wanted or whatever. Guess what? Columbus then ended up getting a new stadium with the new ownership anyway. Suck it, right? And then he's like, I want to go to Austin. That was his whole motivation the whole time to get to that market. Then he doesn't really do anything with the team. Like they've had some solid years at times. What, maybe one or two solid years out of the four seasons they've been around. And now the fans are fed up. And guess what? It sounds like a lot of the same stuff I heard from the fans in Columbus when Precourt was in Columbus. It's a damn shame in that regard. But if you're Columbus, I love when their local news always seems to clown on Precourt because it's just so funny. But everything went really well for Columbus. They got new ownership, and then they've went off and they've been winning trophies. They've got a great coach. They have a squad that they can be proud of. And in Austin, you see this thing falling apart. Did you see Sebastian Driussi and what he was retweeting on Twitter? I mean, that's not a good look either. So he's probably going to end up leaving in the offseason. They're going to have to start over looking for DPs all over again.
Yeah, and I mean, ever since we've covered them, Jordan, the best they finished is second in the conference. Looking back at the past, 12th in the conference in 2021, 24th overall. In 2023, they were 12th in the conference and 25th overall after a really good season where we thought that they were going to make some noise for MLS Cup. We thought going forward in 2023 that this team was going to be something to be reckoned with. And then in this year, Jordan, again, they're sitting 11th and 21st overall, but that's because there's a lot of teams this year, Jordan, that are just absolutely horrible. It doesn't help that the teams below them, in any regular year, they're averaging what they averaged last year as points per game. This is a really bad team, and this market's pretty much given up on Precourt and Josh Wolf. Like, Wolf's been, I mean, I think they've given up on Wolf since day one, but it sounds like, I mean, just looking at their stands, looking at their attendance, this is not a stadium that they have a hard time filling when the team's good. Like we've seen that they're probably one of the best fan bases once their fans get behind them, but they're one of those fan bases, Jordan, that are kind of like what New York Yankee fans are, where like they expect the product on the field to be good. And if it's not, they won't show up. Like they'll just not show up. And the Yankees have struggled with that, where if that team is not good and that product's not good, they will not come to the game. They'll come back once they're good. It's kind of that fair weather, but it's he's running into a big problem in Austin. I think the whole issue with Claudio Reyna is something that we forget about. Precourt has been pretty darn adamant about building a better team in Austin than he had in Columbus, and now Columbus is
So
like the star child of
I think
what.
that's why I'm shocked by this. Really, like we can say, "Oh, this is pretty typical Precourt," but I thought once he got to the market he wanted to, he would put a little bit more
Right,
work into it. But it's not really how it's gone.
right. You go over and get Rodolfo Barrial. So from it just I don't know. Like it seems like they always try to spend on random players that I don't know. Like they're it's a big market. It's one of the fastest growing cities, if not the fastest growing city in the United States. Um, and like you said, they've got the means to put a really good product on the field, and they haven't. So it makes you wonder, Jordan. It makes you wonder what's going to happen. Josh Wolf will be done after this year, I believe. And if he's
It's an
not, then you're really
easy
going to start to,
scapegoat for
yeah,
Precourt. I feel like that's gotta be, and they just brought in their new, um, the new general manager at the beginning of this season. I think it's an easy scapegoat to be like, all right, we're going to try to pivot to something else now, right?
yeah, yeah. Rodolfo Borrell,
Yes, from
sporting
City,
director
right?
from
Yeah.
City. Yeah, I couldn't think of his name, his last name. But yeah, no, I think they're putting all these resources into it, and Sebastian Chirusi, their best player and a former MVP candidate, and this league is going to leave. I'm interested to see if he sticks around MLS because I think that would be fun. Um, But I do have a feeling if he does stick around, it'll be with one of the LA teams. So.
Mm. Well, you got Portland, Austin. Like I said, that is Wednesday at 10:30. Portland's in if they win. They've been having a good season. They're they started off hot. They kind of faltered. Then they're back hot again. They're in 9th place. That's a wild card spot. I see people shouting Evander for MVP. You think they have a shot with a? Do you think he has a shot MVP? I know his stats are great and stuff, but you're also looking at a 9th place finish. Like realistically, we usually see Supporter Shield winners get it. Like, but I've seen a lot of people push for it. I would like if this is the year that we don't have an MVP from the Supporter Shield. Does Evander have a shot?
He's so great at creating chances. He's got 18 assists and 15 goals. There's not really anybody in that echelon of goal scorers and creators besides Cucho. You could, I guess, put Denny Bwanga up there too, but Chicho as well, I guess. But nothing that close to what Evander's done. I think we're gonna have a hard time finding a player on a team that's going to finish in a wild card team, push that envelope, because while that's impressive, I think what Cucho has done or Benteke has, well, I guess Benteke would be in the same boat. So that's where it becomes kind of interesting, right? Is Benteke is going to win Golden Boot, but he won't win MVP. And Denny Bwanga, I don't think wins it because I think Cucho's been more important. But then also you got to look at Luis Suarez carried a team that's going to win. Like this is the first year, Jordan. Where I don't feel like there is a.
It's not a lock. It's not like we like
Lucho's been the lock.
Last year we looked at Cincy and we're like, oh, Costa,
right?
Like that's a lock. Or when Revs won it, right? It was like, yeah, Luis, Luis Gill. That's who was going to win it. It is a very interesting MVP conversation because I feel like it depends on the sport. Like baseball, Ohtani's won an MVP when he was on a team that did not even sniff the postseason. Right. But in the NFL, that never happens. The NFL, it's always going to be on like the best team in the league. Like
NBA doesn't happen. Yeah.
Right. So it is a very, I think baseball, because they can put up so many insane stats that you can usually look at that and give it to somebody individually like that. Just a player that has the best season. I do think this will be tough. I think if they get into the playoffs, there is a shot Evander wins it. But I think people will be looking at players like Suarez and Chucho more because those teams are going to finish in higher spots. And I do think you're probably also going to maybe see a push for Messi because of his contributions per game, not how many games he's played. We talked about that last week, but I do think you're going to see some push on that. I do.
Yeah. 15 and 15 for Messi for those keeping score at home.
That's
which is
insane.
Absolutely insane because he's played 10 less games than most of them.
Exactly.
So I don't understand. Like, I don't understand people that can't look outside of their own players. But then I get it. Like, if you're not covering the league and you only watch your team play, your guy's the best player. But when you look at, like Jordan, I kept naming names there. I'm like, well, he could win it, but also he's kind of in that same situation.
I'll say Benteke is not going to win it just because of goals scored. Like that's more likely he's going to win the Golden Boot. But yeah,
like if you were picking MVP today, if you were the only pick, Jordan, if you were the only vote, who are you making the league's MVP this year?
See, I've seen some people say Suarez has fallen off the last few weeks. I mean, like the last few games they have drawn.
Right.
But they're still going to finish Supporter Shield winner. I feel like I would go Suarez or Messi, like 15-15.
It's insane.
And he's only played like
16 matches.
That's insane. Now, like, can you reward that? Yeah, I mean, we were just about Evander having 18-15 in way more games.
Yeah.
It depends on what you count as being most valuable, I guess. It really is. But, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it's one of those three players instead of Chucho.
Yeah. I think I would give it to Messi at this point. And I know people are like, no, don't. Because he barely played. I'm like, dude, he put up a 1-on-1 clip pretty much. Like, he had 1 goal, 1 assist on average. Like, that's, close to it. That's insane. Like, you don't see that in MLS. You
He
don't
broke
see that in
records
other
for goal
leagues.
contributions
Right.
and, how many appearances. Like, they might reward him with that.
Yeah.
All right, there's elimination scenarios. Nashville can be eliminated if they lose versus DC and Montreal win and Philly win.
Good riddance.
Or they can, if they lose and Montreal win and Toronto win, or if they lose and Philly wins and Toronto wins. So I doubt they're going to actually get eliminated Wednesday, but by Saturday, Nashville should be knocked out. They got rid of Gary Smith mid-season. It gave them a little boost for a couple of weeks, and then they haven't really done much since. And again, everything was resting on Mukhtar, and doesn't work like that. You need more than just the one player.
I'm glad we got into that point in the league, though, that you need more than one guy, because I do feel like there were definitely times in our early coverage of the league that I did feel like you had one good player, you could really do some damage, but it seems like it's really evened out.
And they play DC at 8:30 on Wednesday. Again, they would have to lose and have two of those teams of Montreal or Philly or Toronto win. Two of those three need to win in order for them to be eliminated. Okay, Dallas. Dallas will be eliminated if they lose/draw at San Jose, or if Minnesota wins and Portland wins. So Dallas, again, it's looking like if they don't get eliminated Wednesday, they'll be eliminated by Saturday. So at that point, most of those teams will be locked in the West, and we'll have 2 weeks of just seeding things. Decision day could literally mean nothing in the West, really. It could. Everybody could get locked in before then.
Yeah.
But I would assume San Jose is going to lose to Dallas. So I think they'll hold off for the midweek, and Saturday we'll go through it again. Austin will be eliminated if they lose or draw at Portland. There's some home field scenarios as well, Logan. There's one. LAFC can clinch home field advantage in round 1 if they win versus St. Louis and Salt Lake lose and Houston lose or draw and Colorado lose and draw and Vancouver draw. Okay? So they need 4 results to go their way and theirs to go their way. So 5 total results. But they can have home field advantage in the West. That just means they'll lock up the top 4. But that's it. That's our scenarios. As we're on scenario watch, which is probably my favorite part of winding down the season, is just looking at all the scenarios.
My favorite's magic numbers, but we don't really have that in MLS. I mean, I guess you could figure it out if you were mathematically
It's magic
inclined.
Points mainly, right?
Yeah, magic points. So I guess you could do that if you were mathematically inclined out there. If you want to do that, you could tweet it at us. That'd be kind of fun to have those.
Get mad on it.
Yeah.
He's mathematically inclined.
Right. Let's run the numbers, get it on an Excel sheet, send it over to Maddie, and Matt can do it. But yeah, you're right, Jordan. This is always fun for me, especially when my team's in the playoffs and satisfied in the playoffs. Because
and you're locked in.
You're not locked in, but we are. So yeah, it's nice to be able to kind of sit there and play the math game. So
let's talk about what happened on Wednesday. We had 3 finals go. Columbus lost on penalty shootout, which was unfortunate to Club America for the Campeones Cup. Vancouver beat Toronto on penalty kicks in the Canadian Championship final, so they're into the CCC. And LAFC have broken the streak. They are now Open Cup champions for the first time, and they break that 3 straight final losses. And this was a good game, by the way. This LAFC scored to make it 1-0. SKC equalized, and I was so happy just so the game could keep going. It was only 7 minutes after Giroud scored that KC scored, and then it went into extra time. Campos scored and Kai Kamara scored. There were some controversy with offsides on, I believe, the Campos goal. Um, some people had him offside by a foot, and it wasn't called. And I guess I'm not sure if VAR didn't exist or they didn't look at it, but not a great look in that regard. But LAFC, champions of the U.S. Open Cup, SKC do not get that record-breaking 5th U.S. Open.
Nice to see that LAFC's gets a trophy this year because I think it's the only one they're going to be getting. There's a shout, but it was a really good game. I was fascinated because I was like, I don't know if SKC really has what it takes, but then once they go down and then they come back, I was like, okay, maybe SKC has some magic. And I don't know, US Open Cup and any kind of cup like this, it seems like opens the door for teams that maybe haven't played consistently well throughout the season, but you can get into a window of playing well and make some noise. And I thought, man, LAFC is going to drop another one. They're going to give this up, and this would be a way to lose it. So Olivier Giroud gets off the mark for LAFC. He scores, and now they'll make their push towards the playoffs, and SKC will go home and think about what they've done without probably a Peter Vermees at the helm. So we'll see. But I think there's going to be some shifting around again in the league. So I'm interested to see where some of these head coaches end up, because I feel like I did see a report that Greg Berhalter is being thrown into conversations with pretty much every team, Jordan. So SKC, it's not been good. We covered them on the last podcast, but I think it's been a downward slide for quite some time.
Yeah, no trophy. So that's their season. They're eliminated from contention. So that's that. Okay. Let's talk about if the playoffs started today. We got another one of these fun graphs. I don't think much has changed, but they do have a new one out here, so I'm just going to share it and we can see if anything's really changed. Okay. I think everything... Oh, no. NYCFC jumped up to 5th. That's right. They leapfrogged to 5th. Charlotte, I believe, is in 7th. Because I think you guys were locked... I think it originally said you were playing Charlotte, right? Or Red Bulls. You guys were supposed to play Red Bull.
Red Bull got jumped.
Red Bull's now up to Cincy. Charlotte would be playing Columbus. And Miami would still be waiting for the winner of Toronto and Philadelphia. Now, Philly drew with Atlanta, sadly. So they needed... if they had 3 points, they would have been up to 40 points. They would be feeling pretty good. Now Montreal has 37, Atlanta has 34, DC has 34, and so does Toronto has 37 as well. So all of these teams are kind of in that same hemisphere, trying to figure out how that's going to play out. But yeah, so would you feel good against NYCFC? Both teams that were founded in 2015.
Yeah, it'd be that's the first game I've ever watched. Was that game back in 2015 on my laptop?
Kaká scoring the late equalizer.
Yeah, and the old Camping World Stadium. So, but yeah, no, I think it'd be great. I think Orlando City's one of the best teams right now in the league, at least playing like that. So
putting in like 3 goals a night.
Yeah,
it feels
constant,
like, constantly.
So, I'm feeling pretty good about where Orlando City. I think they've fallen into this lineup that they really like. Finding things for Martino Hayda to do. Enrique's played pretty well. So, the Lions looking really good. There's a 10-point. Like, you probably say that to people, and they're like, "Whoa, they're 10 points behind the 3rd place team." But I was like, "Man, you should have seen the way this started. We were dancing around down there in the bottom with Philly." So, they look really good.
Did Matt stop going to games? Like, is this what turned them around? Like, what?
I think that's what it was. Seriously, like, when we stopped going to games, they just were like, you know what? We're going to start winning. And Matt's like a curse. Matt, if I take my friend Matt to the games, they don't score. It's usually a 0-0 draw, which can be brutal to watch. It seemed to be there was the running joke. We went to like 4 straight matches, I think.
Yeah, and he hadn't seen a goal.
Yeah, it was brutal. So, Yeah, and then the one game that he didn't go to, he like skipped a game, and they scored. City scored. Duncan McGuire scored in like 90 seconds or something.
That's
It
right.
was
That's
or
right.
like he was even shorter than that. It was really
Yeah,
quick.
it was
It
the
was
really quick
quick.
goal. Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I'm feeling good. I think the Eastern Conference has like sections of their playoff rankings or playoff footing right now, where I think the top four teams are really good teams. That middle section has been teams that have really struggled. If you throw the NYCFC, Red Bull teams there, Charlotte's been kind of inconsistent, and then you've got the teams below them, which honestly, I'm looking at the teams below them, and Montreal's been the hottest team out of them. So it should be interesting, these playoffs.
Did we find out if they reseed after the first round?
Mm-mm.
Because baseball doesn't. So like if the Orioles win, they go to the Yankees no matter if the Tigers beat the Astros. But I think with this we reseed, right? So like if Charlotte wins, they would go to Miami if Miami wins, right? Like that's what I think happens. I don't think it's going to be this bracket particularly.
So let's look. So round of one, the top 7 teams from each of the conference automatically qualify for round one best of 3 series. All 16 teams participating round one earn at least one home game. It doesn't say anything about them getting reseeded.
So what's it say for round two? What happens in round two? Does it say
conference semifinals? After FIFA's November international window, the single elimination winner go home. These matches are hosted by the team with the better regular season record, with no mention of a reshuffling. So I think it is just the normal bracket, how it breaks down 1 through 8. 2 will play the 3.
Because that would be that would kind of suck if like Miami Orlando is the conference semi.
Yeah, I think that's how it would break down though. Because
maybe to try to keep the 2 seed.
Yeah, you want the 2
over
seed playing
there.
the 3 seed. Yeah, it's the way the NBA works. Like there's the 8 teams. They want the 1 seed the chance to be able to play the 4 if all the favorites win, like they did last year. Right? Was that last year they all won all the favorites? Yeah. Where if all the favorites win, then Miami's got the easier path still, according to seeding. But yeah, there was talk. I do remember there was talk of them reshuffling, because that was part of the players. I think it was part of when they were negotiating the players union, back when we were covering them during like whatever that lockout was. I think there was a proposal that they were going to do a lot of reseeding, but I don't know. I've been a fan of reseeding at some points, but then other points I don't really like the reseeding because, like, say Charlotte somehow bounces Columbus. Like, I don't know. Like, they did what they were supposed to. Why now shuffle them and put them up against the number 1?
Okay, yeah, no reseeding in any round. I got that confirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this would be the bracket then if everything. So here's Miami's path: Toronto or Philly, Orlando or NYCFC, and then Columbus, Charlotte, Cincy, or Red Bull to get the MLS Cup. I don't know. I feel like if Orlando beats NYCFC, if this is how it locks in, having a Florida derby for the conference semifinal is going to be pretty cool. And then if you imagine if we get Hell is Real, Cincy and Columbus up there,
that would be that. I mean, I think that's the way it's going to go because those 2 teams have played that well. NYCFC have not really played that well, and Orlando's going to have their number at home. So it's like, what do you? You're looking at 2 derbies in the same state, two of the bigger rivalries. So it's like, oh dear. Because I will say it might not be as intense if you take Orlando down to Miami, because Miami's kind of this, they're kind of a show in and of itself. Whereas if you brought Miami to Orlando people don't like the Miami teams. So I don't know. It's very interesting how we feel up here.
Yeah. And then over in the West, it would be Minnesota or Timbers going up against LA Galaxy. I think that's been the same since last week. And then LA Galaxy would face the winner of Rapids or Seattle if they moved on. So, LA Galaxy Seattle would be a pretty fun. They used to be rivals back in my day. That sounds so old saying that, but like, I just remember, like the Clint Dempsey Seattle Sounders going up against LA Galaxy, winning Supporter Shield, and then you have LAFC against Vancouver, and then RSL Houston. So LAFC, if they beat Vancouver, would face RSL or Houston. The more fun matchup would probably be RSL. And if you have LA Seattle versus RSL LAFC, and you get to LAFC versus LA Galaxy for El Trafico in the conference final, that could be fun. But yeah, that's kind of what what we're looking at here. If the playoffs started today, we still got a little bit to go, but like I said, the West is almost locked in. More locked in than the East. The East has 3 spots up for grabs. The West has 2 spots up for grabs, but the gap between 8th place and 13th place is 4 points. All right. Over in the West, it's a lot bigger gap. 8th place to 11th, who are still in the actual game, is a 9-point gap. So the West is getting locked in. We've had Seattle clinch, Houston's clinch, Vancouver clinch. The only spots up for grabs right now are Minnesota and Portland's spots over in the West. Again, we'll probably only be playing for seeding. And even then, the only spots that are maybe up for actual seeding is 6th and 7th. Right? Like Houston's at 48 points, Vancouver's at 47, Minnesota at 45, Portland at 45. Technically, Portland could take over Seattle because it's 5-point gap with 3 games left for each team. So, you would have to have one team lose them all, one team win them all pretty much, and you are then in that team spot. I think that's very not likely to happen. It's very rare for those things to happen. So I would say probably you're only playing for like 6, 7, 8, 9 spot. I don't think I don't think spot 5 or 4, which have 50 points, are really up for grabs right now. Now, Seattle could overtake Colorado. They could also overtake RSL, and they could also overtake LAFC. There's only a 2-point gap from 2nd place to 5th place. So Seattle, if they get on a hot here, can overtake LAFC even in 2nd place. That's why LAFC needs all of those dominoes to fall to clinch home field this week.
Yeah, you got Vancouver sitting there quietly with 30 games too. If they win their game in hand, they'll be with 50. So they'll be sitting up there with the 4th and 5th teams.
50
I will
the
say,
new 40.
But like you said, I think people will be like, well, they're only 3 points off. I think what you got to realize is that if you're 3 points ahead of a team, that's pretty hard to catch up with. Even 2, once we get down to the nitty gritty of things, 2 points can be harder to overcome just because you can draw in this league. So again, I feel like people that are used to, if this kind of was somehow, baseball related, where like there were, 2 games separating, 1 game separating the team, like, oh, we can pass them. But you would need a lot of those things to happen to fall down. And they're going to be playing each other. So yeah, it's, I would say, Jordan, that 1 is locked in. I don't think anybody's going to catch the Galaxy at this point. They're only going to be 3 up besides LAFC. If LAFC win their game in hand, they'll be 3 up. But the teams that have 2-point separation, that can be difficult to catch because it requires them to lose and you to win all 3. So like it does. Once you get to 2 points, I feel like that's a harder gap. Like 1 point, like I would say 6 and 7 right now in the Western Conference, just because Vancouver hasn't played. That can be kind of like, ooh, that's interesting. But I don't know. I hate that we have odd numbers of teams. Messes up everything. And the fact that teams get games moved because they're in different competitions. I don't know. I like
We
decision day because everything's there for me to
we
see.
did have another clinch that happened. A team is going home not with silverware,
Oh yeah.
but with woodenware. We have San Jose, they clinched the wooden spoon. So, Logan, we will let Toronto FC off the hook. That's who you chose this year. And I chose Chicago
Oh
Fire. They
man.
are off the hook.
Oh, easy there. Don't put
It's
those
San
up there.
Jose. Shock.
Yeah.
What a shock. Not really. They've been bad.
Consistently bad ever since we've covered the league.
Only 18 points.
That's brutal. Like, that's really brutal.
Every year, they are awful.
Yeah. Jordan, they're also in line for a record.
For what, points or goals?
Goals. If they give up 3, I don't know what the points is. I think it is past the record. I think there was 14 was the goal or was record, or 12. We looked this up last year because there was another team. I forget who it was, but
yeah, I think you're right,
was it
because
Toronto?
there was
Somebody.
also less games at a certain point, right? So there would have been,
But yes, Jordan, if they give up 3 more goals, they will have set the record. They will have beat Cincinnati's 2021 record of giving up 74 goals. So if they give up 75, Jordan, they will have set an all-time record for most goals scored.
And we still got, what, 3 games?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
They got this in the bag, man. What are we talking about?
Let's keep that ball. Let's go get that ball, Jordan. Let's go to the San Jose games.
Jesus,
I mean, it might just take one game.
Logan, just a little over half a point a game.
That's brutal.
I feel sorry for San Jose fans, right? Like, look, Fabian's doing a great job. He's coming up in the world. He's at Sports Illustrated now, but we all know, we talked to him when he was at Tectonic Takes, and man, this team has made like no progress since then.
No,
unfortunately.
Talking to him about it, I just remember him being very, where do you go? Like, there's not really much positive to say. Like, you just hope it gets better, but it's not gotten better. It's gotten worse because Wondolowski's at least not there to kind of give you that, well, at least he's setting some records over here and he's putting us in the playoffs still. Now you look at this team and go, Jordan, they're so far off the playoffs. Like, this is a bad team. This is a real bad team. They don't seem to have any sense of direction. They might end up with somebody like a Greg Berhalter, which
who's linked. We saw it was Greg, Bruce Arena,
Gio Savarese too.
Gio Savarese.
Could you imagine one of them taking? Why would any of them take that job? I don't think I would touch that job. I mean, I guess Bruce, maybe because you're blacklisted, but
it is a historic club. I mean, it is. It's been around for a while now, and I mean, I could see. I would coach them.
Well, yeah, you and I would both move there and coach them tomorrow if they asked us.
I would coach them, but the main thing is that I don't know. They really went all in on when they went to get Almeida.
Yeah.
And then it really went bad quick. And they did have a playoff appearance or close to, right? Like a wild card spot or whatever. I just remember this, like, the best thing that will ever happen to this team in the next couple of years is if they ever make a documentary on the 2012 Quakes. Like, I think that would be great. I would sit down and watch a documentary on the Goonies of the Quakes. They were a fun team. It just seems like it's been 12 years since then, and it's sad that that's what I have to keep going back to, Logan. Every time I'm talking to you, I'm like, well, Logan, you weren't there for it, but 2012's Quakes were pretty lit. Like, that's sad that that's what I have to keep going back to. And of course, when they won their MLS Cups, and they had Landon Donovan at a certain point when they were winning those Cups, that's just all so far away. It's 20 years ago, since they were really relevant in any capacity other than having a star player like Wondolowski. That was it.
Yeah, I just don't know. Where do you go up where do you go from here? They were a playoff team last year, Jordan. They were the 9th team to sneak into the playoffs. I forgot they were there.
Yeah,
But
me too.
2 out of the last 3 years, Jordan, they've been wooden spoon. I guess winners, if you want to say winners in
If you
that
want to
same
say winners,
category.
yeah.
But I mean, looking at their list of seasons, Jordan, I'm looking at their list and like, I mean, it's not great since 1996, right? They've been around. Um, they were really good for a very long time. And then, Jordan, it gets really bad. Like, once you hit about, I guess, once you hit about, I don't know, 2014, I guess, 2013, 2010. Gosh, I just keep going further up. Never mind. After their hiatus, they went on hiatus. I don't know why they went on a hiatus, Jordan.
Who?
They were gone for 2 years, 2006 and 7.
Quakes? Oh,
Where did
no,
the
they
Quakes go?
moved to Houston and became the Dynamo.
Oh, well.
And then they got got given a team. So that's what happened to Wondolowski. He was on Houston. He was on San Jose, then moved to Houston with them, and then eventually went back to San Jose. But the Houston franchise comes from the San Jose
Oh,
Earthquakes.
well, then I'm learning lessons here today. But yeah.
And those 2
since they
years,
came
by
back,
the way, Houston won MLS Cup.
oh, man.
So those could have been San Jose Cups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because once they came back, Jordan, they've not really been good. They were good in 2012.
It's kind of a Browns situation. The Browns had a really good franchise until they moved to Baltimore, and then Baltimore won the Super Bowl in 2002. I mean, that's a bigger gap from 96, but I mean, it's still like the Browns haven't been the same. Right?
No.
And that's the same thing with the Earthquakes. 2012 is literally the only year I can think of.
They finished first. Yeah.
Supporter Shield?
Yeah.
Is that right? Not just first in the West, but Supporter Shield? Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, they were very good. And
they were mostly luck, I would say, because they were winning. They had to have a record of stoppage time goals at that point. That's why they were the Goonies. They never said die. They would be down or level and then get a late winner. So
yeah. And you might see my excitement for whenever I'm talking about teams with historically bad records, but just know I'm a Cubs fan. It was like part of my DNA to look at really bad teams and go, man, how can we be so bad? Because like I understand it. I understand like the inner workings of it. Ownership doesn't do what they promise. They bring in players that don't fit. They bring in managerial pieces that don't fit. It's honestly, it can't be that hard. Like people can say all they want, but at the end of the day, Jordan, you and I can go and probably look at a team at times with some of this ownership. I do feel like there's just a lack of attention to what's going on around them.
Yeah, who's their owner?
Is it the A's guy?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yep.
I figured. Well, it's only a matter of time
Las
before you're playing in Vegas, baby.
But then first a stop in Sacramento.
God. And we'll just call you the Quakes. Nothing else. Just Quakes.
The Quakes.
The Quakes.
That would be very on brand with relocation though, where it's like the Las Vegas Quakes, and you're like, what? Yeah. Like that? You know, it's like the Los Angeles Lakers, and you're like, yes, no, they were the Minneapolis Lakers.
Yeah. It'd be like moving. Like I always thought it'd be funny if they moved the Tampa Bay Rays and didn't change their name. It'd be like, you know, like I don't know, the Nashville Rays. They'd be like,
yeah.
Why? What? It's like, big fan of the aquarium, huh? Yeah.
It's so weird when those teams have those names that don't. I'm so glad that when the Ravens became the Ravens, they weren't the Browns. That is so. No thing. And I do think the Colts should have left the name back here. This was the Baltimore Colts, and they took our history.
Make sense for Indianapolis.
They took our history. It is. I always feel like if a team leaves, they should leave the history and the name behind. Like OKC did with Seattle, like they don't use that name. And what I've read is if the Seattle ever gets another NBA team, they will get the Supersonics name again. So that's cool. That's good.
Yeah.
Ravens did it right when they left the Browns name in Cleveland. You know,
and boy, did they nail their name. There's not many teams out there that I felt like nailed their name, but they nailed their name. The Ravens, I
Oh
really feel
yeah.
like it's a good name. I feel like the Pacers really nailed it, if people understand what the Pacers are.
The
So,
Ravens is a so much better name than what the alternatives were.
really?
Bombers.
Oh,
We would have
dear.
got after 9/11, that would have been removed.
That would have been really
Okay.
bad. Yeah, yeah,
And then yeah, there was a lot of weird names, but
yeah.
Ravens won, and it's based off Edgar Allan Poe. So that's pretty cool.
Who's got the best MLS name, Jordan?
The best
I
MLS
know who
name?
it is. There's no question. There's only
It's
one answer that's
Sounders.
characteristic. Yeah,
It's
that's
really the
exactly.
Sounders. Now,
Yeah,
can we say that because they were named that before MLS?
yeah.
Let's go to an MLS original team, like a team that doesn't have prior history. So that rules out like Montreal, Portland, Vancouver, Seattle, and Orlando and
So the
Minnesota. It rules
original
out
team.
those. Like an original MLS, and it rules out Nashville and Cincy. But we're talking about like a team that just came out of nothing and got created in MLS. Which one has the best name? I would put my foot forward and say I really like the Philadelphia Union because not just I'm a fan of the team, but we don't get a lot of clubs that are named Union, but also Philadelphia was the city that kind of started the whole union of the states, and that is what
Yeah.
that's what we were called. Um, it just has that feel where it sounds like a soccer team name, but also sounds patriotic, which Philadelphia teams really should, I feel like. And then it just makes sense. So like I would probably put forward my foot with the Philadelphia Union in that regard.
The Whitecaps have a sick name.
They were around for a while.
Are
70s.
they?
Yep. They were a 70s club.
Well, that's no fun. I mean, I'm looking at the original 10, initial 10 from MLS.
Yeah, what's the best one
Tampa
out of
Bay
those?
Mutiny. What is that? I mean, honestly, the Colorado Rapids is pretty damn
That
solid.
is a good name. That is a good name.
Like the Rapids are. The Columbus Crew is cool too. Like that's a cool name.
I wish they had the old crest. Not even like the 96 crest, but the circle crest from 2015.
Yeah, like
that was a good crest. I don't know what the hell this
Yeah.
pennant flag one they have is. I don't like it.
I do like DC United because of where it's located. It's in the. I mean, I feel like it's kind of like the Union. Like I
Yeah.
feel like Philadelphia Union and DC United.
And
kind of
DC
have that
United's
same ring.
crest is just so classic.
Yeah, it's
the
I like their
eagle.
crest.
I love it so
Yeah.
much. I
They
grew up
did
with
so
it
well
though.
with
Like
that. Yeah.
my dad's a DC fan. There's merch in our house of DC. Like I was a DC fan before becoming a more diehard Union fan. So
And once Charm City comes, like you're really gonna.
if they called it Charm City Soccer Club, like that would
That'd be
literally
cool.
be the best name. All right, I don't care.
Would you be a proponent of them changing all of their names so we didn't have to be like the UK teams? Like, would you like for them to have more creative names like in
I
the other
want
leagues?
each club to have whatever they want, but I don't know if this is a mandate from MLS recently or what, but some of these names
Yes.
are just so boring,
Yeah.
and some of these crests are so boring now.
Yeah. Austin, Charlotte, like
You know, it's
those
a
are
good
not
name
original.
too. Chicago Fire is a great name.
That is good. Yeah.
That is a great name.
The New England Revolution, very good, very solid.
Yes, that's another good one.
Yeah.
Those type of names are the best. Like
Dallas Burn needs to come back because I like Dallas Burn way better
Dallas
than I like
Burn is
FC
so
Dallas.
much better than FC Dallas. Yeah.
Kansas City Wizards, I like that better for
No.
some reason.
No.
I don't like
No.
Sporting Kansas City.
No.
I hate Sporting Kansas
I like
City.
Sporting
Ugh.
Kansas City. Yeah.
No.
No club had the sporting names yet. I'm really tired of United and FC names. That's what
Yeah.
I'm fed up with.
Like Minnesota could have so just stuck with
Minnesota
the Minnesota
Loons.
Loons. Like
Yep.
what? Why? Why did you have?
You
to
can
do
even
that?
throw like Minnesota Loons FC if you want to.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know.
If I am a huge fan of if Indianapolis does get a team of them sticking to the Indy 11. I like that name. I think it's a good look. I don't know. I like when they just stick to their roots. Like San Jose Clash. I didn't know that's what they were called. That's kind of fun. I get the Earthquakes, although that'd be kind of like calling it like I don't know the Kansas City Tornadoes. Like name it after a weather event that's very prominent, like the Miami Hurricanes. Like we have one of them, but
Yeah, it
but
wasn't a
it's
hockey
like
team.
why? No, it's the U, isn't it? Yeah, they're the Hurricanes, right? Yeah, cranes. No,
Oh yeah,
they're the
yeah, yeah,
Hurricanes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Why do they have cranes? I'm really confused. You've confused me. Why does the Miami University have cranes as their mascot when they're a hurricane? That doesn't make any sense. Oh,
Your
never mind.
Hurricanes. Yeah.
They're hurricanes.
All right, let's take a look at Wednesday's games. We have Atlanta, Montreal at 7:30, Charlotte and Chicago, NYCFC and Cincinnati, Orlando, Philly in a stateside soccer show derby.
You're going
So that'll be
down.
fun. Toronto Red Bulls, and then at 7:45 on FS1 and MLS Season Pass is Columbus and Miami, the 1 and the 2 in the East, going up against each other. Houston and New England will face off at 8:30, Nashville, DC at 8:30, Colorado and Galaxy at 9:30, RSL, Minnesota, LAFC and St. Louis kick off the 10:30 matches, Portland and Austin, San Jose versus Dallas, and Vancouver, Seattle. Then on Saturday, October 5th at 4 o'clock, we have Toronto and Miami. Then at 7:30, we have the following: Atlanta versus Red Bulls, Charlotte versus Montreal, Cincy versus Orlando. That's a pretty tough few matches Orlando has coming up here. Crew versus Philadelphia. That's another tough game for Philly. New England and DC, Vancouver, Minnesota. And then at 8:30, we have SKC and LAFC battling once again after the U.S. Open Cup. St. Louis and Houston. Then at 9:30, we have Colorado, Seattle, which could be a preview of the playoff game if that seeding sticks. And then we have LA Galaxy and Austin at 10:30, San Jose and RSL. Sunday, we have two games, NYCFC in Nashville at 4 o'clock and Portland, Dallas at 7 o'clock. Logan, give me your best Wednesday game and your best Saturday game.
Man, there's a lot of good games. It's like whoever could see into the future knew what Wednesday was going to be about. I mean, there's an obvious choice. I'll let maybe I don't know. You like to pick the obscure, so I'm going to go with the obvious. I'm going to go with Columbus and Inter Miami. Those are that's a battle for the top spots. I guess some bragging rights because I don't think the top spot's going to ever get loose from Miami, but it could make it a lot closer, Jordan, if Columbus somehow can pull off a win against Miami, which I think they could. It would
make it a
them,
5 point. Yeah, make it a 5
and they
point
have a game in hand.
With a game in hand, and with Miami having 2 games left, and Columbus would have 3 games left, 5 points between them. Maybe you do get Chucho as MVP if they win Supporter Shield.
Yeah, could you imagine? Let's make it chaotic. This year seemed like it was in the bag, but it's MLS, baby.
Oh yeah, Miami fans would be like, "What the hell? We thought we had that locked."
Yeah,
they've went through a few stretches of draws recently, so they'll take a draw though. They would definitely take a draw against Columbus, and that'll be in Columbus. Mine, I'm gonna go with RSL Minnesota. I think that is a must-win for Minnesota to keep kind of getting into the playoff spots. RSL, though, has kind of had these ups and downs, like I said, of sometimes they look really great. Like they just drew with Austin, right? 2-2. Not a great look there with how Austin's been floundering. If I look at the form guide, right? Like let's look at their recent, and I think they had a tough end to the season, RSL, because we've looked at it a few times now.
Oh yeah, they're struggling. I believe they said Cucho has only had 1 goal since July 31st. I think they said.
You mean Chicho,
right?
Wrong Chicho Arango.
Yes, right? That's what I meant. Not Cucho. I've had Cucho on the brain.
All right, so they beat Dallas. They drew with Portland. They drew with Austin. They have Minnesota, and then they have San Jose, and then they have Vancouver. So they could really, like, that Minnesota game and Vancouver games are their toughest. They should be able to get 3 points against San Jose. Their last loss was against Houston on 9/15, so about 2 weeks ago. Since 1 win, 2 draws. So we'll see. But they've had 4 losses since since July 14th. So, uh, and that's even with a break in Leagues Cup there. So they got a little bit of a tough little bit going on here for RSL. I think that's a big game for them. They need to finish top 4, right? Like that's what I would say for RSL. They've been so good all season. When we were going to see them and they beat Philadelphia, they were like the top team in the West at that point, and they've just haven't been able to keep that going. But if I'm an RSL fan, I want them to finish top 4. They're in 3rd place. But like we said, those gap from 52 points to some of those other teams are not that big of a gap. That with the amount of games left, it can still get done. So that's my pick for Wednesday games.
I guess Saturday. I'm gonna go with. I mean, you mentioned one indirect or kind of directly. I'm gonna go with Columbus and Philly, and the only reason I'm doing that is I feel like this is a must-win game for Philadelphia at this point on a Saturday after they've just got a midweek game that they've got to win as well against Orlando. I feel Philly doesn't have a lot of room to wiggle, but that being said, like again, and teams that are going to have to play Philadelphia, they're the team I don't think I'd really want out of the bottom. I would say 5 through 9, honestly. Like if I'm looking at a team, and I'm not just saying this because Jordan's here. If I'm Orlando, Cincinnati, Columbus, Miami, that's a team full of veteran experience that you get them in a playoff round, they'll just beat you down. Like I really do feel that way. I feel like they'll handle Toronto pretty well. Or if Montreal's up there, I actually feel like Montreal could be the one that's more of a threat than Toronto at this point. But I do feel like Philadelphia is seasoned enough that you do not want them in a win or go home situation in a playoff round, because I do feel like with their veterans, that's all they need. They only need one game or 2 games against you to put your back up against the wall or eliminate you. So I'm going to go with that game just because I feel like Columbus hasn't been playing very well. Jordan, you and I were talking about how Columbus was starting to look like they could run away with it and really challenge Miami. But right now, I would argue that it goes Miami, Orlando, Columbus, and then you start to get into like Cincinnati of teams playing well. And I think, again, I just don't know if I would want to run up against Philadelphia. And they might be destined for a first round matchup with a Miami team who's also struggled recently. So this could get really fun and exciting.
Yeah.
I would not put the Union out just yet. As far as, well, they got into the playoffs. They're not going to face against Miami. They're not going to do well against Miami. I don't know, man. Like if there's a team out there built for Miami, I think they're one of them. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think this will be a really good game just because I think Columbus is they're tough sledding right now. They need the points. They're not going to catch Miami, but they need the points to stay above Cincinnati at this point.
I'll go with Atlanta Red Bulls. Atlanta making that push. Can they get a little bit more oomph to finish this season? They face Montreal on the midweek. That's a big game for them because Montreal is soaring. It's like if they get points out of that one, can they then go ahead and get points against Red Bulls and kind of finish the season enough to get into the playoffs? Getting that point on the road in Chester against Philly was big for Atlanta. Can they keep it up? We'll see, but that's a big game, I think. And then also Red Bulls is just like, all right, you got to start getting some momentum. You've clinched 15 straight postseasons, but you got to do something with it. So love to see if they can maybe go into Mercedes-Benz and maybe start getting themselves in good position for the playoffs. All right. Did you know today's International Podcast Day, and we're podcasting on International Podcast Day?
Happy International Podcast Day.
Yes.
What'd you get me?
Nothing. This is our 4th year anniversary. I think next month, early October, I think it is
Yeah,
actually. So we're
that's
coming up
wild.
on. Hold on, I might be able to find the exact date that I did the first episode.
Yeah, thanks for
Um,
the invite, by the way, on that one.
yeah, no problem.
I
You kind of just invited yourself, and I was like,
did.
"That's
I did. I was like,
fine."
MLS is back, baby. So I want to be back too. And then that's where it all began.
Yeah, 2020, we did our first episode. This is episode 255 of the podcast. That
That's
is
pretty
insane.
wild.
That's not counting our Ted Lasso stuff. That's not counting our closed pyramid stuff. Any of our special episodes that were not numbered, it does not count those at all. The first episode, oh, you know what? I actually need to go to the stoppage time feed for it because the stateside show feed I did not create until 2021. So that might confuse people. You might see like 16 episodes that were released on January 2021. But for 2020, I feel like it's coming up.
It would have
I feel
to
like
be.
it's coming up. Our first stateside show, soccer show, if I can talk, was October 4th.
Wow.
Goodness gracious, Friday will
Yeah.
be our 4-year anniversary. October
Wow.
3rd, I posted a preview episode. It was 6 minutes. I was probably just talking about how I'm going to talk about American soccer or whatever. So that would be Thursday. But Thursday and Friday is our 4-year anniversary of the podcast. Thank you all who have supported us throughout the time. We never thought we would come here. We're now soccer reporter members. We are able to vote MLS player of the match day and all that kind of stuff. It's been a lot of fun these last 4 years. Thank you all for watching and listening. And we just had one of the St. Louis accounts shout us out this week too. So that was great. But yeah, so just wanted to acknowledge that before I forget. And then next week we just keep talking as if that anniversary never happened. So happy 4-year, Logan.
Happy 4-year. What'd you get me?
Again, nothing. I got you a great Orlando team is putting in 3
You did.
goals a game.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm thankful. I am blessed. Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag blessed. Okay, we will catch you all next week when we talk about the Stateside Soccer Show Derby that takes place on Wednesday and all of the weekend action as more teams are close to clinching and close to getting eliminated. The playoff field will narrow, and then we'll take a look at what happens with that. Have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you then.